Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will continue to work on our campus post type. Okay, up in the header, let me click on the campus's archive link. And in our previous lesson, we created this interactive Google map where visitors can zoom around and scroll around. And we pinned on the map locations for each of our campus posts. Remember, this is the post that has a title of Downtown West. And this is the post that has a title of Downtown East. Now in its current state, this map isn't very useful for visitors because if you click on a pin, nothing happens. So our goal in this lesson is to set things up so that if a visitor clicks on one of the pins, it pops up a little bit of info with the name of the campus, maybe the address, and if you click on the title of the campus, it will take you to the permalink detail screen for just that one individual campus post. Okay, so if we want to customize this screen, we need to jump over to our text editor. So over in our theme folder, let's jump into Archive Campus. Here's the while loop that outputs this HTML once for each post. So remember that our JavaScript code is looking at these data attributes of data latitude and data longitude. And the JavaScript is also going to look inside the div for any content that we want to use for a pop-up. Right, so check this out. In between the opening div tag and the closing div tag, so right here, if we say hello 123 as a test, now when I click on one of the pinned locations, we see hello 123. So instead of hello 123, why don't we output maybe the title of the post and then also the street address? So let's delete hello 123 and maybe create a heading level 3 headline for the title of the post. And within the H3 tags, let's drop into PHP and just call the title. And just to stay organized, we could drop down to a new line right before the beginning H3 tag. And then right after the H3 tag, we could also drop down. Okay, so now underneath the heading level 3, we can output the street address for the campus. So to do that, let's go back into PHP and let's echo out a property that lives within our map location variable. Right? This variable gets all of the information associated with the pinned location on the map from this custom field. So down here, let's echo out map location, that variable, but let's look inside it, so square brackets to look inside the array. And just like we did up here for latitude and longitude, now we can do the same thing with address to get the street address. Okay, let's go ahead and save this and refresh the front end. So now if I click on Downtown West right here, cool. Perfect. So now let's just take things one step further and set it up so that you can click on the title to go to that individual detail screen. So here's our heading level 3. Let's just wrap the text in an A tag to create a link. And on the opening one, href equals, and then we just want the permalink. So go into PHP, the permalink. Click on Downtown West, and the title's got an underline to indicate that it's a link. Let's go ahead and click it. Cool, and we're on the permalink. The only issue is that this template is designed for blog posts and not campuses. So in order to create a unique detail view for campuses, let's just create a new template file. So in our theme folder, let's create a brand new file. And we need to name this new file single-campus.php. And in order to save a ton of typing, why don't we use the single-program file as our guide or starting place? So I'm going to go into single program and just copy the entire thing into my clipboard. And then back in the new single campus, let's paste that in. And then let's scroll up to the top and just start customizing this for a campus. So for example, the first thing that I want to change is this breadcrumb or meta info box. So instead of all programs, it should probably say all campuses. So here's that text. Let's change that to all campuses. And let's also change the href for that link. So get post type archive link for campus instead of program. So now if we click this, it takes us back to the campus's archive. Cool. Let's go back to Downtown West. Why don't we customize this area a bit? So first, why don't we pull in a map with just a pin for this one campus location? So back in our text editor, right underneath this div with a class of generic content and where we're outputting the WordPress the content function, right below this div, let's add a new line, and instead of typing everything out again, we can just go back into Archive Campus and we can just copy and paste this code. So let's begin from the beginning of this div with a class of ACF map. So let's begin selecting there, and then let's just select all the way down. Oh, actually, before we copy and paste this, I see a mistake that we can fix. So on this campus archive screen, we don't need to echo out any pagination links. So let's actually delete that. And then these two PHP tags can sit on the same line. Okay, much better. So now we can get back to copying and pasting. So let's copy from the beginning of this div down to this closing div right after the ending PHP tags. Let's copy that into our clipboard. And then back in single campus, right underneath the main the content div, let's just paste it in. Except this time we don't need any of this while loop code because we're already on the single permalink for just the one campus. So let's just delete this opening block of PHP. And then we can also delete this closing while loop curly bracket. Perfect. Let's give that a save. Refresh the individual Downtown West screen. Whoops, looks like we're out in the middle of the ocean. I think I know what's causing this problem. So when we just deleted that opening while loop code, I also accidentally deleted the code where we created the variable named map location. So let's do this. We could add a new line in between these two lines, or even just right up here. It doesn't matter where we do this. But let's drop into PHP, and let's just create a variable named map location, right? So all of this code will work. And let's set it to equal get field, and the field name that we're looking for is map underscore location. Okay, so with that variable back in place, let's save this. And we should no longer be in the middle of an ocean. Cool. So now that we're on the individual screen for just one post or campus, if someone clicks on the pin, it makes sense to show this information, but we no longer want this to be a link, right? Because it would just be linking to the page that someone is already on. So let's just go ahead and remove the A tag that's wrapping that text. Perfect. Now I can no longer click on the title. It's not a link. Okay, now before we bring this lesson to a close, I also think it would be neat if on this template for each individual campus, if we had a section right about here that said programs available at this campus. Now in order to create a relationship between a program and a campus, we're going to need to create a new custom field. So right now let's jump into the admin. And down at the bottom of the sidebar, let's click on Custom Fields. Let's create a new group, so Add New. Let's name this new group Related Campus, or you could put ES in parentheses, right? Singular or plural, it's up to you. Let's go ahead and add a field. Let's name the field Related Campuses. But for the actual variable name or short name for the field, let's get rid of those parentheses, so just related campus, so it's easier to remember and type. Okay, and then here's the important part. For field type, instead of text, let's set it to relationship. The next field that we need to pay attention to is post type. We want to limit the choices to only posts that are of the campus post type. And then all of these other default options are A-OK. Let's keep scrolling down until we see the location box. So show this field group only if post type is equal to, and let's set this to program. Okay, now let's scroll back up to the top and publish this new field group. And let's go test it out and take it for a spin. So let's go into programs, and let's say that the math program is available at the Downtown West campus. So if we scroll down, we see that new custom field, related campuses. Let's click on Downtown West. Cool. Let's go ahead and update or save this. And now let's just go back to our Downtown West single view. So front end, campuses, let's click on to Downtown West. And now let's just write the PHP code to output a headline here that says programs available at this campus. And then we can write a custom query to pull in any applicable programs. So let's jump back into the text editor. Here's that map code that we modified just a moment ago. Now, because we created this single campus file by duplicating single program, you'll notice that right below this map code, we have a few extra custom queries left over from the program template. So we've got this related professors query, and then below that, we've got code that checks to see if it's empty or not, and then it outputs an H2 accordingly. So what we can do now is just modify this. Instead of looking for related professors, we can look for related programs, right? And that will save us a lot of typing. So let's change the variable name to related programs. Let's modify this query. So posts per page looks good. Post type, let's change this to program instead of professor. Order by and order look okay. We do, however, need to modify this meta query. So for the key, instead of related programs, let's change this to related campus. Cool, so all together, we're creating this new query. We're saying, give us any program posts where the related campus contains the ID of the current campus that we're viewing. Okay, so we've got our custom query. Now let's just use it in this code that outputs stuff onto the page. Remember that we renamed our query variable from related professors to related programs. So let's update that here. And then let's also update it here and here as well. Related programs and related programs. Okay, let's first adjust this heading level 2 that we're echoing out only if there are indeed related programs to show. So originally this would say math or English and then professors. In this case, we just want it to say programs available at this campus. So we can just delete everything inside the H2. So now we've just got one string of HTML, and then inside the H2, programs available at this campus. Okay, and then within this while loop, we don't want to output a professor card for each item, right? Instead of that, let's just output a plain text link to a program. So let's delete this class on the li. Let's just have a regular li. And then also the a element, it doesn't need a class either. We don't need to output an image, so we can delete this image element entirely. And then we don't need a span element, we can delete that. And we don't need the closing span tag. Move this up onto the same line. So basically we just have a list item with a link in it, with the title that points to the permalink. And then before we save this, let's change the UL class, right, that all of these list items will live within. Instead of professor cards, let's just change this to min-list and link-list. That will give us appropriate CSS styling. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. And now if we scroll down underneath the map, we see programs available at this campus, math, and if we click on it, perfect, it takes us to that screen. Now we do want to make sure that that relationship flows in both directions. So maybe at the bottom of a program page, we should have a section down here that says, this program is available at these campuses, right? So to set that up, the template file that controls this screen is single-program. So in our text editor, let's jump into single program, and let's scroll down to the very bottom. And at the end of this while loop code, while we are still in PHP, we can just write a little bit more of PHP. So first things first, we do not need to write any new custom queries. Because remember, the custom field that creates the relationship lives on the program post. So we don't need a custom query. We can just look at the value of that custom field that's associated with the current post. So why don't we begin by creating a variable and name it related campuses, and let's set it to equal get field, and remember we named it related underscore campus singular, semicolon at the end here. Now before we actually try to do anything with this variable, I do want to point out that right above this line, we should call WP reset post data, right? Because that will give us a clean slate. Otherwise, when we try to get a field with this name, WordPress might think that we're talking about whatever posts we just looped through in this custom query code up here. Okay, so reset post data gives us a clean slate. So now we've got this variable with an array of related campuses. Now let's just set up an if statement to only output a headline onto the page if this is not empty, right? Only if there are campuses to work with. So we can say if, parentheses, curly brackets. For the condition, let's say only if related campuses exists. That's all we need to say. This will evaluate to true as long as it's not empty. Okay, now within the curly brackets, let's say we want to echo out a heading level 2, semicolon at the end. Let's make it say blank is available at these campuses. Except we don't want it to say blank, we want it to say math or English or biology. So let's delete the word blank and then add another single quote to close out this string of text of the opening H2. And then we can add a single quote to begin text, again right here, but then in between that, we can use a period to concatenate on or add on, and we can just call get the title. Then we can add another period to concatenate on the rest of the text. Let's be sure to add a space though before the word is so that the text doesn't run together. Okay, let's save that. So far that's going to give us math is available at these campuses. Why don't we adjust the CSS styling so that this headline looks like these headlines that we've already established. So let's just give our H2 a class of headline and headline dash dash medium. Okay, and then right underneath this line, after we output the headline, let's just output one link for each campus that lives in this array of related campuses. So to do that, you can say for each, parentheses, curly brackets. Inside the for each parentheses, let's use our related campuses array and say for each item in this array, let's say as, and then we can make up a temporary variable name. Let's just call it campus. And now we can use this variable name in the body of this for each loop to get the title and permalink for each item that lives in this array of related campuses. Now we could echo out a string of HTML and mess with the concatenation and the periods, but I feel like that gets messy pretty quickly. So instead, why don't we drop out of PHP and then drop right back into PHP, but in between there we can write good old HTML. So let's just create a list item and a link, and inside the link let's output the title for each item. So PHP echo get the title. And what post do we want to get the title for? Well, within those parentheses, we can just pass in the campus variable, so the current item in our array of campuses. Then let's do the same thing for the permalink. So drop into PHP and echo out get the permalink, and in parentheses, campus. Now from an HTML perspective, since we are creating list items, we want them to live within a UL or unordered list. So right before the for each, why don't we just echo out UL semicolon. Let's give it a class of min list linked list for CSS reasons. Then right after the for each loop, we can just echo out a closing UL tag. Let's give that a save and test it out. Math is available at these campuses. Cool. Before I click on this to test it out, why don't we add a horizontal rule right here to create some much needed vertical spacing here? So right before this heading level 2, why don't we just echo out a horizontal rule, and let's give it a class of section break. That looks a lot better, and we can now test out our link. So it takes us back to Downtown West. And that's going to bring this lesson to a close. Our next lesson should only be 5 minutes or less, and we will finish up our campus's post type. And then right after that, we can jump into the new topic of live search results powered by JavaScript. Let's keep things rolling, and I will see you in the next lesson.